Good.
Okay, we'll go ahead and call this work session to order. Staff, could you please do roll call?
Commissioner Caldwell,
Present.
Potter,
Here.
Schneider,
Here.
Roberts. And Commissioner Freeman is not in attendance yet.
That's what I just did.
Got some microphones out here. Ken, would you grab one of those? Sorry. I'm thinking.
It's early.
I should be able to pick us up.
And we'll just turn it over to staff to lead us in
Okay,
this work
the-
session.
The thought behind this work session was to go through the comprehensive plan and mark the changes you wanted done, in each chapter. And then confirm what we're going to do in the land use chapter. Last time we had talked about blobs and we'll have a bigger discussion about that. And we can do that first, or we can start with chapter 1 and just kind of talk through it and see what kind of changes you're looking for.
Sure, let's just start at chapter 1.
And then each of you are going to go through and mark your comp plan, give me those changes, and start incorporating them into the text. And then we would have working copies of changes at the next work session. Okay, so chapter 1 is just the introduction. It's the history of Valley County. I don't know if anybody is interested in changing the history. No, it's fine. It has the historical maps. It was just kind of fun, it shows Smith Ferry Park and Alpha. It's basically a history. And then chapters 2, we start into the population. There's a lot of new demographics out. We just had one done with a housing needs assessment that hasn't even hit the press yet. We can use that to incorporate into the population chapter. We can use the demographics done by Clearwater for Valley County, their census data. So on page 11,
So this will all be the numbers you'll update.
we'll update the numbers. I'll update them towards the end when we're closer. But like 11 did anyone have changes on page 11?
Well, so since I thought we were actually supposed to focus on land use, chapter 13,
Okay.
and the matrix study. That's what my instructions were. I didn't know we were going through chapter 1.
Okay.
But I do have some changes that I would.
Well, do you want to start with
recommend.
chapter 13?
Well, let's just continue on through this. You can get any other additional changes to her.
Okay, yeah, I do have a couple on goal 1 that on chapter
Okay.
2 that I'd like to recommend. These are notes that I've kept over the last several years, and I keep my copy of the recommends.
And then chapter 2 is the private property.
So
It's an iteration of what's in state statute.
do you want us to go over his changes?
You want to,
So I would prefer to actually write them up and then, so like underline, strike out, so you can see what I'm thinking about.
So then we might as well not go through all this then, because we're just gonna have to revisit it.
Have you guys made changes to the chapters?
So I made changes to verbiage.
I have notes that,
and kind of the thought was a discussion about changes. Your changes might be different than Heidi's changes. And then it'll require a discussion with the P and Z Commission to see what's actually changed. Because I can't take everybody's changes and do those because then we get lost. So we need to talk about the changes as we go through.
Which could help narrow down like what the focus points are too. I mean, obviously for me, I'm new to this and it'll be interesting to kind of get your guys' input, which will help with more input that I can provide. And maybe for you too, Ken.
Yeah, like, for instance, on chapter 2, on population, goal 1, it talks about accommodating growth, development while protecting quality of life in Valley County. And I think there should be some things added in there about preserving open space, concentrating, those elements where it makes sense, infrastructure. But it's a theme that you're going to hear me talk a lot about. The whole conference. I think the goal 1 should slightly be adjusted.
So it says accommodate growth and development while protecting quality of life within Valley County. How would you change that?
That's where I would insert the concepts of protecting, not only just quality of life, but protecting what is referenced in chapter 1 about what drew us here in the first place.
So you don't think that would be a different goal? I mean, you can't, it's a goal, it's not our mission statement.
Well, it's in the this is where I don't know if it belongs there, because this is in the population chapter.
Right, that's why accommodate growth, because this is about population and growth. So we need to accommodate the growth and development and then protecting quality of life.
So I just changed verbiage. I want to manage the growth and development and enhance the quality of life. I just did it.
Instead of using the word accommodate.
Yes.
So you said manage.
Manage growth and development while enhancing quality of life in Valley County.
We took out protecting.
And accommodate. And changed it with manage
I
and
kinda like
enhance.
the protecting. Well, just because I think we have a really great quality of life. So let's maintain the status quo. I mean, we can always enhance it, but let's not let it go. I mean, some people's quality of life might be different might not be.
So probably the concerns I have probably fit better in goal 2 than goal 1.
In goal 1, the only thing that
I like your word manage, though.
included was evaluate the likely impact of the costs and services for new growth through tools such as like development agreements, because, and maybe that's a different one, but.
So the accommodate versus manage growth and development. Accommodate and protection are like black and white, so you have to accommodate the growth and allow growth. But you need to protect the quality of life. So you want to manage the growth.
Yeah.
Doesn't that make us sound like we're micromanagers?
No.
Planning for the future.
To manage growth and development while protecting quality of life within Valley County. And then the objectives are what you use to implement goal 1.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's where your enhance kind of comes into carries and improve existing levels.
And instead of maintain or improve, ensure that it's maintained and improved. And that ensuring it means we're gonna implement development agreements.
So we could do maintain or improve existing levels of service as new growth occurs, and then we could put under one, like, we could create a new level, like tactics.
Like an ABA.
I think it's important to remember that the comprehensive plan was written purposely somewhat vague so that every new commissioner can take this plan and implement it in the way they want. We do not want to be the 5 people that change this plan to the way we want it
Yeah.
to continue into the future. You know, it should be vague enough that we can all kind of take our own points out of it. That sounds really bad. Not take our own points, but implement it as we see fit.
But isn't it the responsibility of the P and Z Commission to, as we come and go from these seats, that a future P and Z Commission may say, you know what, they didn't do it the way we think it should be done now, and in 20 years, they changed the concept. So isn't it our responsibility to set
I don't
the plan
think,
the way we feel it should go into the future?
I don't think it's our responsibility to put our personal preferences into this.
And who should
That's why
write the comp
that's
plan?
why we use terms like shall and should are very different. Because the ordinances are what completely guides us. That's what we absolutely have to follow, not the comprehensive plan. So we can put in some of our thoughts and feelings into this, but the 5 of us shouldn't change this so much that it changes the entire future of Valley County Planning and Zoning.
I think that's a job.
I don't, because I'm going to be off of this in 5 months, I hope. And I don't want the next chairman or the next commissioner to feel like they have to do exactly what I wanted. Because they're gonna come in with their own opinions, their own responsibilities, their own lifestyle. And I don't want my thoughts to be what they have to follow.
So what you're saying is your personal feelings. What you're trying to do is implement a vision for the community.
Yes.
Um,
That has to be well-rounded.
right, based upon interactions with people, not just gear it all towards cattle.
Yeah.
Because you're looking for a community vision versus just your personal vision.
Right, but you have to put that vision into a document. And that's what this is
There's
to
a lot
guide
of
it.
current vision in this document. If what Cinda said was true, I would change this whole thing to pro-open space, pro-cattle, cut development is what someone that was only looking at one focus or one background would do. And that's why I think it's important to, and I'm only saying this as I've read this for the 100th time, there's a reason why it's vague.
And it's,
And there's a reason why ordinances and laws are not vague.
Right, I think that this is, just, and correct me if I'm wrong, I take this as this is a guide, right? So this is a guide to give you an idea of what the vision is. And from there, laws are created based on this guide.
Correct.
And so just like our job is not to take our personal preference into any decisions that are being made. That's the same here.
Well, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
And if I came across that personal preferences rule the day, that's wrong. But this document absolutely creates the foundation for the ordinances. And if the ordinances are not following this, they're not in line with the job.
so this particular goal, which is manage growth and development while protecting quality of life within Valley County, is under the population chapter. We're going to maintain and improve existing levels of service as new growth occurs through tactics and implementation by requiring development agreements. And what other implementation would you do to maintain or improve the existing levels of service?
Well, when I read this, to me, I think of, infrastructure. That's what I go to first, is infrastructure. Which would be like me thinking about services, Idaho Power, road systems. That's just what it takes me to, not so much. Obviously, I understand what the development agreements are, but that's not what I thought of when I read that.
So kind of, maintain existing levels of service, and service would be the infrastructure.
Right.
Exactly what you're talking
Right.
about. Police, all of that stuff.
Right.
We talk more about infrastructure in chapter 13, right? I think this is. Right, where's infrastructure talked about? I know it is.
You could say,
Anyways,
So another one, required development agreements would be like work towards regional, transportation plans and all of that stuff, but that comes back in transportation. But we can allude to it here. Regional aspire to.
That's a good word, aspire. That's early,
We'll
it's early
figure out
for
that.
words like aspire.
there's a whole chapter 11 is on public facilities, utilities and services. So that's
Yeah.
a good place to address that.
And then 2, evaluate the likely impact on the cost of services for new growth to ensure it does not create an undue hardship for Valley County residents. And that just goes right back up to the tactics and implementation. Collaborate with regional partners. Oh, dang, there it is.
So I just rewrote that, foster collaboration with regional partners and neighboring communities to address growth and development effectively. I just elaborated it and I guess gave us more insight into what our goal is and our mission
So you said foster collaboration.
with regional partners and neighboring communities to address growth and development effectively. And instead of on number 2, does not create, I changed that to prevent undue financial burden on the residents of Valley County.
Say number 2 one more time.
Prevent undue financial burden for Valley County residents.
So to take out to ensure it does not create.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To prevent.
But you,
It's same, it's just a play on.
that's an unrealistic goal and objective because you
Why?
cannot prevent it.
Sure you can.
I don't believe we can prevent everything.
You
I
can
don't think
ensure it
that's
either.
fair.
Yeah, you
I
can't, yeah.
I think what you're getting at is the cost of services to service that development.
The new
whatever it
development.
is. I think
So it's
that
basically making development pay for development.
Right. spill over into the other taxpayers. I agree with
So to prevent it,
To prevent undue financial burden on Valley County residents.
It's not just financial. It can be other types of hardships.
if there's other hardships besides just financial. You'll have to get me all your words. Words, yeah.
I will email this to you.
But you're not saying just financial.
Yes, you did.
I did, prevent financial burden.
Oh, you said prevent. What if you just say, evaluate the likely impact on the cost of services for new growth and to prevent an undue hardship for Valley County residents?
I like that.
So just take out to ensure it does not create.
as a whole, meaning in number 2 is all about finances.
What's the difference, so I get the feel here between ensure and prevent? Ensure does not create. Prevent.
This is like all the strategic planning things that we used to do, well, that we still do in life, where we argue over one word, and does it really change the gist of the goal?
Number 3, foster collaboration with regional partners and neighbor communities to, what are the rest of the words?
To address growth and development effectively.
Goal 2, retain the rural small town character enjoyed by residents and visitors in Valley County.
So on that one is, I don't know what, to me, the rural small town is speaking of, like the hubs, Cascade, all those are small towns. And I think I'd like to suggest we insert like agricultural land, retain. I'll call it open space for now, but agricultural lands. Because that's what people enjoy. Residents and visitors.
Sometimes far too much. The number of trespassers these days is ridiculous.
So,
And maybe just retain the rural small town character and agricultural operations. Agricultural lands that are enjoyed by the residents and visitors.
so can that be goals? I mean, would that go in the ag section?
And are we changing the date by 2030? I just kept that in there, by like
2040.
2040. You been talking about that?
It's not very far away.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
See, retaining the ag is a way to, preserving ag is a way to retain the real small town character. I mean, it's a,
When I read this, I think of the small town. Where's the hub?
Maybe it should be the rural and small town character.
So
Then
we
you get
have,
both.
yeah,
Rural, how about we say retain the rural agricultural lands and small town character?
but, and I'm just gonna say it this once, is that a realistic goal?
That's telling,
so,
that's telling ag producers what they can and can't do.
I mean, is it realistic? I mean, is that the way Valley County is going? I mean,
to maintain the small town character?
No, to maintain or to preserve the agriculture.
retain the ag and small town character. I mean, the small town character, I mean, is that the way Valley County's
Headed? No.
headed?
That's what I was gonna say, but I didn't want to be the.
That's why I brought it up.
Cinda, it's up to this commission, the 5 commissioners, to help set the course of what Valley County looks like. That's why we're meeting, that's why
Right,
we're having this
Right.
discussion.
I'm just asking.
And if we decide that there needs to be change that would help shape that, then that's our job. And is it realistic? Yes, it is, very realistic. I think it's, that's why we're appointed to these positions. The commissioners are the ultimate authority.
We have two contradicting things. We have an increased population, but we have the essence to preserve the small town,
Right, that's our challenge.
which is somewhat.
And
I don't think they're in conflict. I absolutely think that there's gonna be a lot more development in Valley County. And I think it should happen. I really do. But I think it needs to be done in such a way that when 2040, whatever the date you picked.
Yeah.
How old will we all be by then?
I'm gonna be probably 35.
Yeah, me too. I'm gonna go backwards.
Will we look back and say, well, it's because, remember that meeting we had back in 2024? The work we did on the comp plan? Did we set out a vision and some ordinances that helped create what we have today? And I firmly believe there's gonna be 5,000 more houses in this valley in the next number of years. And when that happens, will we still have a place that accomplishes the goals of small town atmosphere? It's something that people enjoy.
Well, if you look at multi-family units restricted to city municipalities, it's not gonna have a small town feel, because we're gonna have apartment buildings and
So where should they go?
condos,
So where should the people go?
not in rural area, but we're not.
Look at what surrounds the cities. It's all rural.
I know, but I'm saying the small town essence, I don't think we can define it as a small town setting anymore. I think it's more of a rural setting as a county as a whole. And then small towns inevitably, Roseberry, Philippine.
I see what you're saying. You're saying that if you push, just as an example, if you push those 5,000 houses just to the city limits, you're gonna have extremely high-density urban areas, and that is not going to have a small-town character. So, retain the rural agricultural, so let's talk about this goal again. Retain the rural small-town character enjoyed by residents and visitors in Valley County.
Rural is characteristics of the countryside rather than the town. Rural.
So how do we define our small town? Not a small town anymore.
But are we getting too nitpicky? Like, what if you just put rural and? It's small town character, it's not small towns, it's the character. So we're not saying they need to stay small towns, we just continue to want the character of a small town.
Retain the rural small-town
Rural
character.
and.
Consider the community stated vision to retain the attractive rural character and existing advantages.
What are the existing advantages?
See picture below.
Consider the community state.
Because we're in our community. And we have all these natural resources around us, the forests, the rivers, the
Existing.
water bodies, the lakes.
Okay. That makes sense.
Can we connect that?
Yeah, so,
Change the date.
you think
before-
population, but this has always been one of the ones we talk most about is this thing right here.
I bet.
We have, so private property, I think that one. Oh, natural resources, chapter 4, page 15.
So these will have to be updated too.
Yeah, I'll just update that stuff. 17, goal 1, conserve and manage groundwater and surface water in all its forms in order to prevent depletion or pollution.
Note here, I gotta remember what it means. Make these notes in.
That kind of, I mean, there's things we'll add here, you know, there's the Valley Soil Water Conservation District Coalition activities, and we can insert that type of stuff into here. I mean, these objectives, I mean, what is different here than that you would want to see changed?
The only note I have in here is to enforce continued compliance with, you know, the issues. And I think my line of thinking was aquifer issues related to water rights. I mean, what we're experiencing in southern Idaho right now, we don't want to play out here. More individual wells that we, they always illustrate it as the more straws we put down in the aquifer here, we'll start to deplete the aquifer. Get to that point. Because then everybody has to start deepening the wells.
So where does that come into play with? That's not our jurisdiction, that's IDWR's. Where,
What's in goal 1, it says conserve and manage groundwater. Is that, I mean, yes, they absolutely play a role.
as far as compliance?
I understand what Heidi is saying. She's saying right now it's an exemption to allow individual wells. And our goals as Valley County is to try to direct development so it conserves and manages groundwater and surface water.
Our job is not to enforce
Um,
or police.
and surface water. I mean, what new objective would you have here?
Okay, and it's a note that I wrote earlier, based on what I was thinking about this meeting today, is that the concept of, instead of having 50 lots and 50 wells, 50 new straws down into the aquifer, is having them hook up to a central water system that is serviced by one.
And so just, so you're saying 50 houses on one well uses less water than 50 houses on 50 individual wells?
No, what I'm saying is that instead of, it seems very duplicative to have, it's a way around having, it's for developers who don't want to spend the money on simple water and sewer. They like to go the cheapest route, maximize profits. And to do that, they just have the new owner drill a well, put in a drain field. And it seems to me that if we're going to have subdivisions, we need to absolutely encourage central services.
With central services, you get the higher densities.
It's fine.
Which wouldn't that mean more water being used?
Probably less since the.
I guess I'm confused, like you're saying, okay, you have 50 wells or a community water for a subdivision. How is that changing the impact?
It's probably more on the sewer side than it is on the water side. Water's gonna come from the aquifer. However, usually your municipal wells they go way deep.
I know that Farm Bureau was trying to push this hard, this legislature, and a lot of people, including us, were like, no. Like you take some of our,
Metering.
no, that was the central water systems for developments over a certain size.
Oh, got it.
So you take like Saddle Rock or Eagles Nest. I'm not sure how a central water system would have ever worked in that situation, much less central sewer.
I guess, but what I'm looking at is what the actual difference in impact is.
Right. Like I'd want to see some numbers.
Right.
Like I said, on the water side, it's probably not
As much.
significant.
I think more importantly,
But it's on the sewer side and nutrients and.
on the sewer side, I wish
Yeah.
that Central District Health would do more monitoring. Go out and check after 10 years that your septic system is still functioning.
How can they
Well-
possibly?
It'd have to be a whole nother level of funding
Yeah.
from the state, blah, blah, blah. You know, but in Valley County, we just attended the, what is it, South Lake Sewer. You know, I think that's gonna be huge, that if they can really get this done where South Lake can hook into the city of Cascade Sewer or possibly something else, something like that's gonna have a crazy big impact on Valley County and the Lake Cascade water quality. I don't think it's these new developments that are probably causing a lot of these issues. It's because I think a lot, you know, especially with HOAs and things like that, and also just people wanting to maintain their investments, we do have our septic pumped every 5 years. We do ensure they're,
Some of us do. Some don't.
Was it part of your HOA?
I don't know, should have been.
Now we're requiring that now.
Right. But then who actually
Nobody.
assures that it gets done?
Well, that's the Valley Soil Water Conservation District thing. They're all over that, and they want us to do it.
With all of our extra funding.
We have a compliance person now.
Yeah. He's already I'm gonna have to hire 2 more people. We're gonna start doing weeds, and roads, and buildings. I'm getting another one this coming year. So anyway, the goal
Change
was
there.
conserve and manage groundwater and surface water. It had nothing to do with septics. Encourage retention of existing wetlands. Promote use of geothermal, irrigation water, riparian areas. Recreation values, curtail agricultural because it pollutes the waters. Encourage open space. Didn't even hear me.
I heard you.
Open space buffers adjacent. So, encourage, central water systems is what you're after right there, isn't it, Ken?
We can encourage as long as we don't mandate.
So encourage central water.
What number is this?
Ken.
It's gonna be a new one.
Oh,
Central water systems.
Central sewer and water system.
Well, this is water. This is a water goal.
Oh, yeah. Well,
but do we have, I mean, to put something in there, it's like, and I'm not-
Central systems.
do we have any facts? Do we have information telling us? You know, it's like to put something, that's kind of a big statement. Do we have something to back that up, that that is the best option?
We're gonna say encourage central systems where practical.
But do we even know if that's, should be encouraged? I guess it's a question.
It should.
Okay.
With a central system, then you have to get water rights. And then you get your higher densities, which we should be promoting higher densities.
still have to get the water right even for an individual well.
But shouldn't we,
When did that start?
It's always been. You file for your
No,
well.
there's a 13,000 gallon exemption.
They're recorded with water resources. And that's the whole debate about individual wells, whether they're subject to water allocation.
They're exempt.
And right now they are.
Yeah.
But they're recorded.
Encourage central water systems where practical. You know, and then that enhances fire protection too. You do that. But I wouldn't think that, you know, putting a central water system on Eagles Nest, a huge rock would ever
Makes sense.
make sense. This is an example, Eagles Nest. You can use Crown Point as an example.
So is that in turn, so if someone comes in and says, well, you guys said we're gonna recommend central water, which ultimately equals usually higher densities. What if someone puts together a central water system and plops it right down in the middle of rural Valley County? Isn't that kind of pushing that goal of higher densities in rural?
This is one component. Your compatibilities or ratings is hopefully drive that.
But then we're
Plopping down.
telling developers two different things.
Okay,
I'm fine with it staying in for now.
okay. Preserve and protect the rich natural resources, assets, property values, animals, and people in Valley County.
Can
The
we
threat of wildfire.
impose this on the Forest Service?
Okay, landowners.
She didn't hear me.
I did, I'm looking to see, yes.
She's
Promote
ignoring you.
responsible grazing on federal and state forests to reduce fuels in appropriate areas.
Can we promote responsible forest management?
Sure. Number 8.
You can just imagine the wildlife that's just getting torched and all this. It's terrible.
Forest and grassland.
Mm-hmm.
And Sherry's writing a resource management plan that will
Of course.
promote responsible forest and grassland management. So that resource management plan, I don't know if it's a sister to this plan or if it will be incorporated into this comp plan, I'm not sure.
So number 2, educate landowners about defensible space. Aren't we mandating that? I know we shouldn't have, but we have to make them do a wildlife plan.
No, we
So-
do not.
Can we suggest, can we make it a little firmer than educate? Educate and recommend?
I think you ought to be stronger than that, actually.
Well, I don't think we should ever have like a, you will do this, right, in this document, but
So here, you got an example. Here's lot A, here's lot B. This person does a fantastic job doing their forest management. This guy does not. Fire starts here. and we destroy
that should
everything.
again be an HOA issue, CCNRs.
We require wildland urban interface fire protection plans in subdivisions.
Yes.
And they have to implement them. But this one has to do with existing lots. And
Does Mara do anything with, she just does, she does do some existing lots, right?
she does, or ownerships or neighborhoods, that type
So we
of
should
stuff.
probably somehow include that in here.
Well, I think we actually need to go beyond just education.
Yep.
How about consider, I mean, maybe there's a new goal, is there a goal in
It's
here?
number 4.
Consider fire-wise implementation on private properties. That's number 5.
We'll go to number 4. Is that,
Encourage landowners to annually treat hazardous vegetative fruits. It's number 5 that addresses requiring it.
Consider fire-wise implementation.
On private property. I personally think we should do some requirements in the timbered areas.
You do.
But we wouldn't discuss requirements in this.
No, not in this, but these goals would lead us to that.
So it would be like propose, implement fire-wise implementation.
Promote fire-wise.
Consider is kind of an odd word.
Promote and encourage. Encourage is to foster, sustain, and promote.
Number 5, encourage fire-wise. No, we're gonna encourage, require fire-wise implementation
Yes.
on private properties. where applicable.
I think in today's world where, I mean, look at what's happening to Stanley and Loman.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So require fire-wise implementation on private properties in wildland urban interface. Promote, encourage,
So
consider.
let's take Wagon
Fire.
Wheel. Would it be considered a wildland interface? Because there's a lot of trees back there in that, you know, you take, that subdivision doesn't seem very fire-wise to me.
You could say,
It's patchwork. I mean, you have some lot owners that
Right.
recognize it.
But you take Paradise, California, that blew 100 football fields a second. It doesn't matter if one is fire-wise and one's not. If they're all
Yeah.
not, then
fire-wise implementation on private properties in timbered
I
areas.
think we live in timberland area that is plagued with forest fires every year. We're gonna continue to grow like with population increase in chapter 2. We're bringing more people in. I think it's fine to require it because
Yeah, and I think that you are, in the sense that if we have this development, it's not just gonna be people out on, it's gonna be subdivisions, it's going to be planned developments, and that's being required
well,
for.
and that's the unfortunate part. Anything that's coming up will follow these. It's all the ones that are currently here. Take West Mountain. for
You know,
instance.
this would encourage changes to the building code.
Oh.
And they would have to do this as part of their building
Permit
permits.
application.
and they, I mean, ultimately the commissioners can make an ordinance for the
Yeah.
county that affects everybody.
Well, and this is following with house insurance
Yeah,
terms.
huge problem.
Everyone's getting canceled. I got
Yeah.
canceled.
Yeah.
You did?
Well, Whitetail, all the people on the ridge at Whitetail, they can't even get insurance.
Because of the
Mm-hmm.
fires.
Well, but they could, it's like Pilgrim's Cove, for example. They, as an HOA, are going out
Doing a
and
captive.
complying with, I think they're doing like 250,000-gallon underground tanks.
Yep.
They're going out, which Whitetail, I'm shocked that they haven't done that.
It's the time, so they have hydrants, but it's the time frame for the fire department to actually get there. It's over 5 minutes.
Interesting. So, but Pilgrim's Cove, so they're doing it so that they can get insurance, because right now nobody can get insurance.
Or you can get it, it just excludes wildfire.
So I put require fire-wise implementation on private properties in timbered areas.
What do you have required?
Required.
Yeah.
Okay, and timbered
I
areas.
mean, I'm putting metal on my roof. I'm doing
Do
all
we
kinds of
really
stuff.
To define the area, because wouldn't this also, we would want to encompass all properties, regardless of timber or not, correct?
Across out in timbered areas?
Yeah, just
I think,
private properties.
I think it should be all inclusive, it should be everyone.
How about especially in timbered areas?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I like that.
And then if they do, adopt something, it would be, they could change, because yes, Stanley got evacuated. And, they're in the
Excuse
middle of
me.
the valley surrounded by grass.
Who?
Stanley got evacuated.
So is Loam. Granted, they're
They're in
built right in the trees. Okay.
Okay, 3, protect fish and wildlife as natural resources of critical importance.
I think that one is,
Yeah.
Maintain sustainable commercial harvesting and use of renewable timberland resources.
So I have an addition suggestion on this one, to add a number 3 that would encourage it on private land as well, not just forest land. Because what happens is private land, they don't do the harvesting or overgrowth or mature trees that they can.
Private land too, I'll figure out some.
It's kind of like repeat of number one, but for private land as well.
Take an active role in the revision of, and then encourage private land, encourage private lands.
I think this support responsible and sustainable forest management activities on, I mean, you could even add that to number 2. Private lands.
And then,
On all county lands.
so the other one where we've got a lot of risk is the Bureau of Reclamation land that is timbered. They do nothing with it. They do zero cleanup. Look at spots. What is it called? The wagon wheel, that area between there and Donley.
Just a,
If it goes, I mean, they've done zero. So maybe adding the Bureau of Reclamation since they're a big.
Yeah, because
we can
even,
make them their own goal.
like on the South Lake, isn't it all BOR land that they've taken out all the grazing?
Yeah.
And you can imagine if, because fires like to go uphill, right? If it started down there and started uphill.
Risk is I use it for them.
Yeah.
10 acres or so.
We do ours sections of ours, every 8 to 10 years. And it,
They're the bad actor. If it starts there, it's gonna be.
right.
So adding Bureau and then on private land, you capture both those in.
Yeah, too, I put activities on public and private lands. And then
I think it's smart
actively work with Bureau of Reclamation to manage
as a
their
separate.
lands
bullet.
around Lake Cascade as a
Separate bullet
special
point.
one.
Number 4.
Well, that would be 3 because
Or you're gonna
I
have.
tagged on the end of 2
For the private land.
on public and private lands. Sure, mining remains a viable element in Valley County's economy.
Do we need to update that with Perpetua?
When this was last amended, that's what Stibnite, whatever it was called in Midas, was considered in this. So,
Sounds like they may get
encourage
their
mining if it meets environmental standards.
decision in December, so I think if they get their decision, then we probably talk about a change, but for now, I think.
The only thing that might be to assure mining remains a viable element of Valley County's economy, encourage, the environmental standards. Partner with improvements to infrastructure. Or
That's
make sure that they pay their own way.
right, because Perpetua, especially like Warm Lake Road, it's going to be a big impact for 20 years.
Require.
I know they're
Mining.
planning on it, and I believe they're going to work with the commissioners on their development agreement, but I think it should be stronger if it was in here.
So mitigation of impacts for mining operations.
But require mining pays for impacts to infrastructure. Require mining to pay for impacts to infrastructure.
And
Say that again?
and reduce the impact to Valley County residents as much as they can. You can wordsmith that too.
Residents, i.e. housing, jobs, traffic,
Road maintenance.
George. We'll list them out here. Okay. Did you guys, just a side note, China's shutting down
Antimony.
cells outside their country.
But they also process like
About
80 or
fast track.
70 or 80% of it. Mexico has a little bit of processing. So
That was kind of interesting.
last I heard, they were hoping by the end of 2025 to have it up.
Protect vegetation as a valuable resource in Valley County. This has to do with those dang noxious weeds.
Species plants, is milfoil a plant or the mussels, aren't there species? Not just plants and weeds that we need to be concerned about?
Invasive species.
Would that be in this one? I think
Well,
so,
it says invader species.
but there's invader species, not plants.
This has to do with vegetation.
Well then, so, but do we have one to protect from invasive species?
Maybe we need to put that back under the water quality.
Those mussels are a bad thing. Or
You
just
might want it in both places.
maybe do a new goal
I
that
think so.
Oh, let's do a new goal.
that is essentially the same as goal, what is this? 8 or 5. The same as 6, right? Isn't that 6?
So to protect water bodies.
From invasive species.
Is milfoil a plant or?
Asian milk, but it's a plant.
Yeah.
So one would be milfoil.
And
No, that goes under plants.
Well, to protect water bodies in Valley County, yeah.
Oh, yeah, milfoil, mussels.
Milfoil,
But also invasive species of fish. People keep planting
mussels,
fish around in places that they shouldn't be around.
fish,
But
and
we're
alligators.
into the weeds.
Please.
Snakes.
Make sure that personal bias doesn't come into play.
What is it? What did they killed one of our ponds completely because they thought it was gonna get into scanning.
Those are the ones that they put up here with the ones with big teeth. They were supposed to eat all the trash fish. And then they said they wouldn't
Pike.
reproduce.
Thanks.
They wouldn't reproduce, but then they reproduced.
Yeah.
Well, they killed the entire Cascade Lake way back when we were kids.
So of course, these are 15 years ago.
And,
Oh, what? I don't even think it was 15.
Was it
I don't like fish
7?
anyway,
I
so.
write it out.
Yeah.
I love fish, especially
Just like
salmon.
Mac.
I know.
Some, they killed the
The guys
entire
just
Boyd
went.
Smith.
I'll bring you some.
Okay, so that's the
Okay.
hazardous areas.
Yeah.
I had
think
no,
we're
I had
good on
no
that.
comments here.
It's just, I mean, these are just, some of these are filler. Special areas and sites, all of Valley County is a special area.
Why does it say Eagle's Nest is west of Donley?
Where?
Under special areas.
Southeast.
Well, it's northeast of Cascade. Eagle's Nest? Is it Donley? Well, it's definitely not west of Donley.
How about southwest of Don?
Southeast of Donley.
Southeast.
Oh,
Yeah.
Southeast.
oh, well, there must be, there must have been a big eagle's nest or something over there at some time.
I think someone just
Oh,
put,
that's the one that was on that horse's place.
Yeah.
The tree that fell down.
So let's just take that out.
oh,
That's
So
confusing.
it's not your subdivision.
well, no, there's
There's
Eagle's
the
Nest
Mount Trail.
Trail,
Oh.
and, yeah. I mean, that's why we named it that, but
We just X that out.
I'm X-naying that.
Billy Klein grave on Warm Lake Road, is that still?
Oh, you have to leave some of that in here for people to look for it.
Sheep Eater Massacre Site? Oh, I know.
Yes, that's there,
Yeah. Okay.
so.
I didn't make any comments until actually chapter 8.
So I want to go back to page 24, under goal 1, item 3, or 4, excuse me, number 4. It says encourage uses in floodplains which will incur or cause minimal damage if there is flooding. Is that really what we want that to say?
Yeah, what was the intention of that?
I don't think we should it almost,
That,
Incur.
that's to prevent people from putting like storage areas for trucks and that would, the fuels and things, if they got into the water system, would cause damage.
Couldn't you wordsmith that? If building in the floodplain must have,
But you can't build in the floodplain.
Yeah.
So I changed it to prohibit uses in floodplains which will incur or cause damage if there's flooding.
I like
Right,
that.
but this is encourage uses because that will incur or cause damage if there's flooding. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
That was a oopsers,
Yeah.
which will prevent or. so prohibit-
Discourage.
We'll just say prohibit. Because we don't allow anything in the floodplain unless it's something that will just flow through. I mean, you can have an RV park if you move them out flood season.
Wow, I didn't know that.
I always,
City of Donley.
we need to stop it
Yeah, that's not good practice.
for leisure time over here.
on number 6, why do we have except utility buildings? Shouldn't all structures
I
need?
noticed that too. I thought that was interesting.
Because, you know why? You want the building department to require engineering for your 8x10 shed?
I wouldn't call that a utility building.
Well, they call them utility buildings.
Okay.
They're just
Great.
small. It's not a, like.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I just replaced the word encourage to
Prohibit.
prohibit, and then struck the word no.
Correct.
Shh, strike it.
Okay, I did have, so on goal 2, there's this spelling error on objective 1,
Hurry up. What page?
25. Negation.
Double A.
Double A. And then
It
it's,
still didn't see it.
it talks about the WUI, but it doesn't reference the WUI on what it means. So somewhere we need to explain what WUI is.
Where is, oh,
Number 4. Well, it's
It's in number 2.
Utilize, yeah,
It's in
it's
I
in
number
know,
number
but it
2.
doesn't say,
I need
Yeah,
to
it should
put
be
WUI.
consistent.
Yeah,
just so people know what the WUI is. Okay, sorry.
or behind, after wildlife
first one,
development,
and
urban
then-
interface,
Oh, I
in
was
parentheses,
To
do
be
First
consistent.
time.
I'll do it the first time.
Right.
WUI.
Some things haven't changed, in English, but everything else has. Where was your spelling error? I can't believe you didn't catch a spelling error.
I don't mean either.
It's goal 2, objective 1.
Wildfire mitigation.
Mitigation.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I didn't see it either. And I'm a perfectionist
I can't spell.
sometimes.
Can't either.
why
I'm
I
just
love
getting
s-
worse with autocorrect and,
I'm getting worse with talk text.
right.
It's supposed to simplify your life, and it really just puts a wrench, right? And you have to resend it.
So goal 1 on page 28, to identify, protect, and maintain historically significant buildings and sites within Valley County. I think you should include the historical Valley County Courthouse in here. Why?
Because we're gonna tear it
down.
Cinda's not happy about it.
You're taking a political position there, Senda.
That's personal.
I
Yeah.
said it's probably under the historical, we could probably get it classified as such. And
Oh my goodness.
We don't want that white elephant.
Spend more money.
Chapter 7, transportation.
Save just your office.
Yeah.
Build around it.
Well, there's
I
nothing
still
wrong.
don't understand tearing it down is gonna be less expensive than just doing a full-blown rental. Makes no sense. New construction does not make sense right now. Just saying.
Well, I don't know if we're doing construction or anything, so we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
Transportation. I should have brought it up, but.
Write your commissioners.
You know, we'll just take some stuff out of the master transportation plan, and I thought I would have,
Oh, and we have to add the Donley one, right?
Yeah, so question on the transportation and then like the roadways and pathways? Aren't we just adopting the pathways plan too?
Well, be careful when you just adopt someone else's plan.
Well, I know, not without reading, but wouldn't we specify what parts or?
We have adopted the Valley County Pathways plan in here. It was a specific plan, now they've amended it, so we need to go back and look at the amendments.
The Valley County Pathways Plan is somewhat controversial, and they want to take some private property, correct, to continue the pathway all through
No,
northern
you
Valley
can't
County?
take property for property and do eminent domain.
So one thing that I noticed in,
Okay.
Is that recent? When was that? Because about 7 years ago, they went back and changed Idaho's statute to specifically say pathways.
so who maintains pathways? Where does the expense fall?
Well, that's an issue.
Okay, because so in this section,
Okay, let's,
so just like my
Which
overall
section?
notes, just transportation.
Oh,
Was, obviously, Timber Receipts have supported this in the past. But that's becoming, logging is totally ceased. At this point, it's not even paying for itself. So,
we still get a couple $1 million from the Secure Rural Schools Fund, supposedly from timber receipts every year.
but to look back in history, I'd be really curious how much that has decreased.
Oh, it's
probably like 8 million.
50% at
But
least.
so
I'd say
planning
80%.
for that to pretty much subside. I think
Getcha.
that this is looking at that as like a funding mechanism that I think is going to completely. So I just don't think it's like viable.
Right.
And so what's like the future funding plan?
They talked about that at the last commissioner meeting. There was a gentleman who came in from the public to comment on some roads. And what they said is currently they are funding everything through gas tax receipts. There are zero property taxes, property tax dollars that go towards road funding. And that would be the next step.
So in paragraph 9, we should,
I'm just relaying what I heard on the commissioner meeting.
In which paragraph?
in paragraph 9, top of page
Yeah.
34, we should insert in there, alternate funding sources need to be established or need alternate. But see, that's what comes down in our
And I think you can probably
funding.
even take out such as the Craig Wyden bill and
Yeah.
just do secure rural schools.
Funding. You want to put in here that it went to the ballot box
Well,
and that's the history of it.
it's
I
the
mean,
history.
Voters have not approved a levy.
okay, I like that. Voters,
They approved the concept. They
okay.
did not approve it.
Yep.
Because this, in that second,
Conceptually approved.
Concept of a highway district, formation of a highway district.
Which is why we need to also
No.
figure out how electric cars pay their way.
Can we just put a toll bridge at Rainbow Bridge?
seriously, I was trained. Because how do you get the tourists to help fund?
Put a toll in.
Flat taxes. The voters have
Sure.
conceptually approved the formation.
Was
I don't think it went to ballot for a highway district. I think it went
It's
for
free.
a tax levy.
It did go for a tax levy,
Formation.
right? Not a highway district, it was for a tax levy.
it was a tax district.
See, this says maintenance of our transportation system at its current level of service is totally dependent upon continuation of revenues comparable to historic level of timber receipts. I feel like this whole thing has to be.
It does, it does.
I bet Cinda can
I'll-
wordsmith that whole thing.
You might even think about it, a new paragraph inserted in there. Talk about future funding options.
So rewrite of 9 and insert future funding.
Yeah, and then I guess my question,
But see, the future fund, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, future funding, that's what our goals are all about.
Oh.
I mean,
So this is kind of history.
yeah, this is, you know, the way it
Oh, it's
is
under
right
the
now.
background section.
That's
So you
the
could add,
background.
you could add a paragraph about background, about the voters approved concept of a taxing district for transportation services in 2016.
I'll find out the details. And then just say, you know, it has yet to pass or something. And then down here, we need to insert it that we need to keep after it.
Mhm.
Improve countywide transportation. And I'll have our engineer look through this stuff too, for this transportation section.
Because I guess my question would be, okay, if we can't even maintain our roads, but we're putting all these paths in, who's funding the maintenance?
The pathways have a separate funding source.
Well, the pathway, we're supposed to do that, except now Valley County is building paths. I can't remember if the one on Sampson is a Valley County pathway. Valley County pathways.
The one that they paved?
I think Valley County's paying for a lot of that. I'm not sure.
Now the county has participation.
That's a really good point.
So it's just a concern for me.
Are our pathways in better shape than our roads?
Right, and yeah.
Go.
But it's true. I mean, I love the idea of pathways. Don't get me wrong, but if we
if
can't maintain our roads and we're adding more maintenance, where's
That's a good point. Very good.
Are we stepping out of our planning and zoning?
like it seems like that should be like grant funding.
For the pathways?
Yeah.
Is that back here?
Yeah, maybe I am stepping out of my zone. But I don't think, but we have to consider those things in making this plan.
Right.
You know, what needs to be inserted in here. It was, Valley County has really upped its recreation department.
Parks and Rec?
Parks and, Valley County Parks and Recreation Department.
Yeah, because they're
So it's not
taking
just the road
on
department anymore.
some of the Forest Service campgrounds and stuff, right?
They are creating campgrounds and everything else.
Well, aren't they taking over some of the Forest Service ones?
So do they get their funding from, is it considered general fund out of the county budget?
And grants.
And some from IDP, right?
Maybe some.
I would like something in here to improve a working relationship with ITD,
Number 2.
to encourage forward-thinking plans for Highway 55.
Yes.
See continued improvements for State Highway 55 Goal 3. And encourage,
But that just to see continued improvements, it doesn't even say work with ITD.
Number 2 is where it talks about decisions between the various agencies.
where you at?
Number 2.
On page 34, goal 1, number 2.
I think it should be a little bit,
I think it needs to
More
be
defined.
stronger.
Yeah, stronger.
So over in goal
By
3.
required.
Over in Goal 3, see continued improvements for State Highway 55.
Oh,
I'm at 35. Improve design for the corridors, encourage.
Oh, yeah.
every time I drive the canyon, I redesign every corner. They could cut a little there, fill there.
We are going to be at a solid probably 6 or 7 years of road construction. for
Well,
that
it will
one
just
mile.
always be road construction.
So if you want to, let's go back and change this, or not change, but this background on page 31. It says that a reroute of Highway 55 in the Swiss Ferry area was funded, but has been pulled. It has been determined the best Swiss Ferry to Round Valley route is the existing route.
Okay, but really, the bypass that was proposed that was pulled was over West Mountain.
Yes.
But however, there is a.
No,
current-
there were other ones. There were
There
3
was-
alternates down there.
There's two other
There were two,
alternates out
but this
there.
one was the one that was almost, one county commissioner didn't sign it. Or otherwise, it was gonna go through Indian Valley 20 years ago.
That was the Garvey proposal.
However, there's a new proposal coming up to extend 16 clear through Emmett High Valley and then come over.
Yeah, I mean, I see, obviously,
I
between
don't think-
here, this is always gonna be an issue.
It will.
But I think not the main focus, but from here to McCall is just a death trap. And I don't understand because from doing development, we're told by ITD, no more approaches, you have to have certain, but then I'm seeing all these new approaches. I'm confused.
And as a P and Z commissioner, our hands are tied. We know we don't like this, but without them saying, we don't have the.
But it's encouraging the participation of these certain areas.
It's a limited access highway. They can't not give somebody access.
They can.
No, they can't. You have a piece of property on Highway 55 and you can't access it? I mean,
Yeah,
if you have no alternative,
That's actually happened, Linda.
yeah.
On the north side of Little Donner. The guy that built the new shop kind of on that little hill, they denied him access.
but he had an alternative. He
So
had frontage on Stonebreaker.
we did a project on
Downhill road.
95. And when we bought it, we were told we had access, everything showed we had access. When we went to get our permit through ITD, they said there's already this many approaches. Someone would have to abandon approach to give you an approach. And because there was a limit. So if somebody didn't abandon it, we wouldn't have been able to, we wouldn't have had access.
A lot of the approaches from Lake Fork to McCall already exist. I mean, the one that.
I'm seeing some new
Dykes-
ones.
Stephen Dykes or whatever, they're moving that one to the north across from your place and abandoning that one.
But I think it's just the thinking of turn lanes. Maybe in here we recommend objectives, implement turn lanes between Donley and Lake
I was
Fork.
required to do that. That's how that got built up there.
I think if there's, especially, okay. Should there be a light in Lakewood?
Yes. But, yeah, and so these are discussions that are happening.
Five lanes.
Well, yeah,
It needs to be 2 lanes each way and
Yeah.
a center turn.
It needs to be
Lake Fork.
like the road from Lewiston to Moscow.
Okay, so we can all agree that it's a huge issue and it needs to be better promoted in here for the long-term safety and well-being of residents.
I absolutely agree. I think we're all on the same page on this, and there should be something in our comp plan that is a foundation for not only us, but for the commissioners to stand on when talking to ATE, other agencies that are involved, whether it's the cities.
That's very
So-
firm language.
Yes. I don't know that we can formulate that language right here, but we can,
Because it is for the health and safety.
absolutely,
We haven't had enough deaths. That's why
unfortunately.
they
That's
haven't done anything.
that's not okay.
That's the state.
So how do we get legislation in the state changed?
ITD board,
It needs
You have
to
to get
run
it on
for
the
state
STIP.
legislatures.
STIP program. It's got to get on there. Done that.
Do it again.
So lobby the state of Idaho
That's what.
to
Prioritize.
prioritize
So there's
Highway 55 improvements.
right,
Mhm.
For
sometimes
the health
if you
and safety
try,
of Valley County residents.
if you try to eat the whole elephant at one time, it's an impossible task.
Right.
But there's incremental improvements that are part of a master plan that should be started now.
Yeah, I think Lake Fork to McCall is the most important part
Terrifying.
at this
Within the
point.
county,
Within the
yeah.
county.
And then various left-hand turn lanes, like they did at Clear Creek, like they did at Gold Dust.
The board asks them at least twice a year. We have this discussion. The Board of County Commissioners has this discussion with them.
Yeah, I've listened to a few of those meetings.
Yes, it's a big deal.
But it's not getting on the STIP plan. And the ITD board needs to be approached and addressed by the commissioners and by Valley County in person.
So I guess our job in this is to encourage.
Is
Going
to
say
set the,
lobby the state of Idaho to prioritize Highway 55 planning and improvements for health and safety of all travelers.
Which may include, and then spell out some
Valley County residents,
Well, that could be a
visitors.
goal. Make that a goal.
Okay.
And then our objectives are going to be turn lanes. I don't care if we reiterate or not. Turn lanes,
Speed limits, stoplights.
speed limits, passing lanes.
we will
I'll
get
just- we'll just list all of
recommending
those.
stoplights.
They will not do stoplights.
They want us
They
to
talked
do
about
that.
it in Lake Fork.
There's
They're
gonna be
putting
one
one at
down.
Banks.
Do you know how bad that's gonna be for trucks coming down that grade?
Into
You
Banks?
do, you drive a truck.
So, yeah, left-hand turn, center turn lanes,
They were discussing it for Lake Fork.
And discourage the use of roundabouts. I hate roundabouts.
It's because nobody knows how to drive in them, trust me. I drove yesterday and there are a million on the way to
Oh, there are, the back way?
On Amity,
Oh, yeah.
oh my
What are there, 3?
goodness.
They do get confusing when they're dual lane.
It was so awesome. People were so intimidated because I was just like, because I know how to do it.
Self-appointed ourselves as the new ITD
I
board.
think so.
I think we just did that.
I vote that.
So in here, I also need to get the, promote the alternate route.
And if we could find some more information about the Highway 16 alternate route, we could promote that as well.
Alternate
What about
route.
tolls as well? I think that would discourage people coming
Cinda's gonna
up the canyon.
smack us.
Highway 55, Highway 16, and or Indian.
In Idaho.
I'll just get it in here and then you guys can look at it.
We should not have these meetings when we're all fresh.
So, yeah, let's do it late at night so everyone's like,
We need to start earlier.
I know.
She wanted to
I'll
start
be
at
here at
6.
I know. I would have been like, yes.
I would have done it.
Me too.
Dude,
But
on
Heidi
number-
has young kids.
On the
Yeah, but I
top,
also have a husband who took school today.
so did we decide to change it? You're gonna work on,
I'm gonna work on all those thoughts you guys just had.
I think the other point was on the top, for me, was on the top of page 36, number 3 and 4, where it talks about encourage shared access. Do we want to have a stronger word than encourage? And then do we want to have a stronger word than encourage? on
Yeah, we'll
number
say
4?
What's an
required.
example of that? Like,
So an example would be like our property that butts up to Harlow's.
Mhm.
Harlow's has 2 entrances. And so our 18 acres, we're actually gonna peel off of, one of their entrances is actually on our property. And so now we're doing an easement.
And remember, we lined up those two
Yeah.
accesses,
Yep. So that's one way.
and we did require that.
So we're sharing an entrance.
Okay.
So
Don't we require underground utilities now? We don't?
I feel like there's certain places you can't
You can't.
require
I
it,
thought it
certain
was-
places.
Oh, I thought it was.
No, we-
Okay.
some places
So number
we don't.
2 on page 35, is that what you're referring to? Because I have a note on that too, that require in subdivisions that they be.
No, because some places you can't put underground. I mean, they won't put underground through a wetland and water bodies and,
They're
I mean,
not
there's some
building a
places-
Subdivision in a wetland.
Yeah, but if you have to
but they build it on either side of it. Some places just are not opportune for underground utilities. Otherwise, they'd put underground utilities from here to Stibnite. So.
And I mean, and now you can bore
Places.
through a lot of those places, but I do think that there are certain slopes and certain topographies that make it,
How about we say strongly encourage?
I think encourage. is
yeah,
good.
that's good.
Well, wouldn't
Because
we-
yes, you don't want somebody to cheap out in a subdivision that should have underground utilities just because, but that's gonna devalue their,
But that's why we have such an incredible staff that writes conditions of approval that are
But there's-
appropriate for the.
but there is no comment.
Well, wouldn't Idaho
Right?
Power
Yeah,
have
there's
a
conditions of approval
comment,
that all utilities.
and they're gonna say whether they're gonna do it or
Just
not?
fiber.
Or wouldn't we just leave that up to those specific utility companies?
Well, you
We
pick.
can encourage it. We can.
Yeah.
So we encourage it, but they always make their recommendations and requirements.
You know, I thought
Like,
on that cell tower out
It's
on.
gonna be
Hershey
cheaper.
Hill, we should have required underground. And you guys didn't.
But they would, but it's not, Idaho Power is not going to say, you need to do this. You get to pick. And it's gonna depend on your costs. It's cheaper to do
Idaho
overhead,
Power's always required us to bury everything.
depending on the location. But if we
Yeah.
wanted to do overhead in Saddle Rock, we would have been able to. It would have completely devalued what we were, the product.
Okay. Valley County.
Yeah, we have 20 more minutes. Maybe 20.
We're making such good progress. Housing and community design, we have a new housing needs assessment. Why don't we skip housing until I get you a copy of that?
Okay.
Okay.
'Cause they have a lot of information in it. And
I have one other note, I don't want to go back too much, but on the pathway deal, goal 4,
Oh, yeah, we kind of missed halfway.
Yeah, we skipped that one.
I have, do we have a master plan about pathways? And are we requiring rights of way for pathways in new subdivisions? I think we are.
we have a
It
summary
says
of
work
right-of-way
with developers who come forward with new subdivisions and other development projects to obtain easements and finished pathways.
What number are you reading
Number 2. Director.
now? Oh, okay. I just wondered if there was, because it talks about Valley County Concept Master Plan. I guess at some point in time, if there's a subdivision that falls within where there's a pathway that's supposed to be part of the master plan, that we require.
Right. There used to be a Valley County pathway map in here, but I think it's down.
Okay.
And we need to, I mean, they've made some changes, and we need to go through that.
So I didn't see that number 2, so I think that's.
Yeah, this references the 2017 pathway. I imagine there's an updated one.
So this, number 6, because we were talking about funding, it does say Pathway Committee should work with Valley County Road and Bridge Department to create multiple options for financing and maintaining a valley-wide pathway system. But what is the correct, I mean, is that happening? What? I think that might be something we want to look at.
Well, and we should change that to include the Parks and Rec.
Yeah, a lot of the transportation funding comes through either the formulas or federal funding as a pathway component to it as well, along with the landscape and everything else.
Right. and, Warren Wagon. And there was financing that went with that one.
Well, somewhere in here, it did say that there was an approved plan for all the way around Payette.
The Valley County Pathways. Okay,
So skipping
but
past.
we'll pay more attention if you want to give me.
I'm just more curious about the funding of this. And what we should be kind of, like, what are our goals for pathways? How is that?
So, yeah, do we think Valley County should be funding pathways?
Right. And we can't maintain our roads.
Okay.
So are we on to economic development?
I put something in there,
It's more of a broader question.
more of a policy question.
Okay.
I'll see what I come up with. The paths versus roads. You know, so long as it doesn't minimize or reduce the funds put on roads.
Right.
Keep looking at that one.
Right.
Someone watching it. And 9.
So on this one, again, I highlighted, this goes back to what I already brought up. Declines in timber harvest creates a hardship on the county. Those forest funds play an important role in funding county schools and roads.
Where are you at?
Page 45.
That's still true. It may, I think you could add a line that this is
Which I
changing.
guess that this is background,
But
so.
we still do get some funds. So the schools still get 33% of our forest funds. And we're still at a couple million. So there is at least, there is
So I
some.
guess it's good
money.
background, but what are we planning for the future as that continues to reduce?
That was on a 5-year renewal, wasn't it?
I think it's up next year. But I think there's gonna be a strong push to, depending on the election.
So at the end of A, I could put recently funds have been decreased.
Over the last decade.
Yeah, so I guess that's more like, which we talked about in the other, is what's going to replace those funds? I mean, because then you go to number 2, retail services are not the top employment, but what's funding?
So that would be a goal, is,
For economic development? Yeah. Your concern is, if I heard correctly, is funding for infrastructure?
Right, and yes, because especially from forest practices, so if that's declining, are we accounting
Where's
for?
the shortfall coming from?
Exactly, what's gonna happen in the future when that's reduced even more is,
I actually think, I really like the concept, and maybe that should be back in the transportation chapter as well, instead of economic development. It should be somewhere. I think
Right.
Put the concept somewhere, but either in economic development or in transportation.
it's just funny because it's now been brought up a couple times in backgrounds in a couple of these chapters, but there's been no, not that we're providing a solution, but a goal for how that's then like addressed, I suppose.
so you want like another goal, and I'll work on developing that goal of future funding.
For transport, I think your main concern is
Got it.
transportation and
Yeah.
pathway funding.
And then I'll put that in the pathways, well, that's under the countywide transportation. Okay. And I'll put Heidi. Okay.
The one general comment I had in the economic one is just update all the graphs and charts.
Yeah.
Updated.
Sounds so fun.
Some people geek out on it, I don't. Because it changes daily, it's never,
Yeah, it's never.
economic development makes me go a little woozy anyway.
Economic what?
Development,
Oh.
yeah. It's a lot of, there's not a lot of hard numbers in it, I will say.
So let's see about economic development, because I know Valley County, up there it is, continue to support the West Central Mountains Economic Development Council.
Mhm.
And then recreation and open space.
Objective, improve infrastructure where possible, including enhancement of broadband and telecommunications.
All very relevant goals still.
It's fiber.
Oh, so you want me to put fiber in?
No, I don't
Huh?
think we need fiber.
Well, now anyone can just get
Starlink.
I know.
Thank you,
Which
Elon.
one is
And the
that?
more,
I'm just, that's,
No, seriously.
I'm in support too, but I see where you're coming, the more we improve like fiber and stuff, the more people we're just gonna have working at home up here.
where was that?
Number 7?
Number 7 on
Okay,
page
49.
49.
Oh, geez. Yeah, it's just like, does that still pertain? Is that still, but I mean, I know like the commissioners,
Well, we changed the ordinance to require conduit.
right?
So you can just turn off.
Yeah.
And then we'd go back to the rural.
Remember when our
character.
cell phones went out and everybody was, it was like Verizon was down for like 6 hours one day or something?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody had cell phone use.
We lost it one year when it was Winter Carnival. It was like to overload.
Yeah.
And like cell phones didn't even work.
So it is that way now on like wireless. What's it
Wilderness
Wireless
wireless.
wire.
Oh,
But it's fine during the week, but about Friday afternoon, the service.
That's
just
Starlink.
No,
That's
no.
Wilderness.
Wilderness.
Which no one can get here in Cascade, so.
I
You
have
can't
Starlink
see,
and it's awesome.
no business.
I have
I
zero
do.
problems.
I have Starlink too. It's expensive, but it's worth it.
Frontier.
Ugh. Ziply, isn't it?
Last thing I want to do is.
So would you recommend the change to
Oh.
number 7?
I don't know. I know a lot of people are huge proponents of fiber. No,
I think
I
that's
don't think it
general
needs to be,
enough
yeah, I do too.
Okay. So. Recreation and open space.
Do you think we can take out after the Great Recession, the resort went into bankruptcy
Who is that?
on number 4?
It affected us, but
It's history.
Yeah. Oh, the golf course is open though. Now.
oh,
I know. I'm trying to.
Did you ever catch that Frenchman?
John Perry.
Mhm.
I'll take out.
Well,
Gonna take out the whole
actually,
thing.
that needs completely rewritten because
Yeah.
they're expanding.
Mm-hmm.
They're currently working on an expansion too.
You could actually, you could almost update all of several of those.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I'll read through.
Just update the entire
You know, I
background.
have a whole box of stuff that just to freshen up a lot of the stuff. But I'm getting your guys' first. Okay.
So on goal number 1 on page 52, I have an added objective or under promoting and supporting a viable recreation and tourism program that is in harmony with the land use section of this plan. And I added a number 6 addressing parking and access services. And what I'm getting at is like the snowmobile parking,
Mm-hmm.
and like the ice fishing parking, it's like that. We have these activities and we don't
The
have any
summer boat
places
parking
for
for
people
boat
to park.
trailers.
Or go to the restroom.
Or like the
Mm-hmm.
rafting place down here at Cabarton, that is
Yeah.
next.
Yep. They're improving that once the water level goes down.
For parking and unload
Maybe
spots.
just the ramp.
The ramp.
The ramp.
Parking, access, and services at recreation hubs.
Mhm.
Yeah, something like that.
That sounds good.
Just
and
capture the idea.
trailheads at recreation hubs and trailheads.
Trailheads, yeah. And you can use the examples of snowmobile parking, ice fishing, rafting.
biking.
biking,
to accommodate demand.
because otherwise they park on Catherine's pasture.
Under objective 1, I do feel like we need more.
I'm sorry, where are you at?
Me. Objective 1, which I don't know if it needs to be changed, but stressing like indoor recreation for people of all ages. I feel like that's something that's definitely lacking. Indoor, like there is,
We have none.
yeah, it's like you need like a field house type. Like there's nowhere for sports, for kids to go play sports or, adult soccer league. I'm just saying, and I don't know where that comes in, but I think it's something that is lacking.
We need a rec center over an event center.
Yes.
Like an indoor climbing
A rec
gym or
center.
something like that.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, you guys do up north.
No,
I mean, there's
we
just-
need a rec center.
yeah.
Especially in the winter time.
I think it needs to go right by the pickleball courts in Lake Fork on county ground.
Other people do that too.
Yeah.
I know there's a future plan to enclose.
But that's serving such a small
Oh, I
group
know.
of people, where if you did like a big
Oh, for sure, I would just.
structure that you can play football and soccer and baseball and you encompass like a lot of different ages. I think we have a ton of outdoor recreation that's great, but I think for actual local citizens and as the population grows, I think it's a big thing that's missing.
So promote construction of indoor recreation facility.
Didn't this get shut down? Like, maybe it was the city of McCall though.
They had, it was voted
Yeah.
down, yeah.
Yeah.
They had that on there.
So then we got the library.
Well, they actually tried to do a district from Donley north. to create-
We need private industry to do this.
I agree.
See, promotes board development.
It's not really something that's, I mean, yes, private, but it's not like it's going to pay for itself. And that's, I think, like where Parks and Rec would come in.
A taxing district. Your taxing district.
Like
Valley
we all
County
pay
doesn't have
for,
the funds.
like Southern Valley County Rec, we all pay taxes to that rec. And I get, there's not a climbing gym and stuff, but at least it's something.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
So promote formation of a taxing district.
I
don't like that either.
Right.
How is the YMCA funded?
In Boise.
Yes.
YMCA
By
is,
membership is a big part of it, but
Donation.
a lot of foundation money.
So is there any way to encourage an entity like that by donating the land, waiving permitting fees?
well, that's like, to me, it seems like something that you would go after for like grants. That's,
I think that's on another level than.
So promote construction of an indoor recreation facility through partnerships.
yeah, leave it
I
vague.
definitely think it's good to have it here.
Foundations.
Yeah, leave it vague,
I
not
think most
tax,
people just
increase
assume that
taxes.
we're a winter recreation community, right?
And that's where I'm just saying, this is kind of where you take away like the tourism aspect. I think it's a need for residents.
School districts.
But like we put a climbing gym in and it's gonna be, unless you have resident only days. I
Yeah.
completely see where you're coming from, especially with young children who are stuck in a house for days, or whatever over Christmas break and the ski lifts are too full.
And they're practicing baseball, right, Jim?
Yeah.
I mean, we did track in our gym.
Yeah, I mean, think if there was, if there was a big dome, I mean, it's like, yeah, our kids go play up against other kids that it's like, oh, they've been practicing since January.
Well, if you look at like McCall School District, all the sports compete for the gym space.
Right.
So
Yeah.
they're practicing like all hours of the night.
Yeah,
So
just to get the.
so the community can't utilize the space.
Right.
All but off season.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Okay, we have 5 minutes.
yeah, during the ARPA fund discussions, that did come up.
That was what funded pickleball? Okay.
And that's what funded pickleball and then fund the new road department out here. And it was one of the responses from the public that is needed in Valley County. So it's within a list. But yes, we will
Okay.
insert that
Good.
here.
Yep.
So if everybody gets me their other changes, I'll try to work them into this. And quickly, we didn't get to the one I wanted to get to, which is this what I'm talking about. The blurbs.
Can you guys give me a little background on where this is stemming from, what we're trying to do?
Here's the issue. Do we zone? Do we do overlay districts? Do we do overlay zones? And what his.
And the goal is to protect.
The goal is to direct
Direct.
certain uses to certain areas and protect other areas.
Without infringing on private property rights.
Yes.
So how do you, because you've mentioned this blob concept to me. How are you,
We tried to avoid the
Thank you.
term zoning,
right?
because, and we talked about it, but it's, every time I do this, I get a map out, and I go, okay, this, but I don't know if they would agree with that. And so you,
Yeah, how do you do this to private property owners?
Well,
You're
that's why we're,
changing.
Give
so we.
the power to
we
the
thought it'd
people.
be- We thought it'd be softer to do this concept, but now that I've given it more thought, I think that anytime we try to do that, we've got a problem. That's why I spent a lot of time on the compatibility, because I think we can actually accomplish what we want to do without
Through the
zoning. Without zoning.
So that's,
Cinda worked so long on her blurbs,
no.
and now you're
see,
saying no?
I really like this because there's people that want to come in and buy property to develop.
but doesn't that then come down to P and Z's,
Or zoning.
no, they're like, no, we should not have a subdivision in the middle of Davis's fields that's surrounded by ag land. Doesn't that come down to
Yes.
our vote as this just does
So the
not,
blob-
this isn't compatible?
So the blobs are not really completely on a lot of the private property. They're where long-range growth on like this one.
Right, like you're extending the sewer district there in Don Lake.
So where I was completely
Where
opposed,
development's been coming in.
But if we're putting these blobs, we're automatically saying, okay, developer, if you purchase this land,
no,
we're encouraging this use here, and then if it gets denied,
but we're not encouraging because that's too strong of a word.
okay,
So
so
what does the blob mean? That you cannot do this, or you would have to get a variance?
Growth has currently been taking place.
There's no, it's not saying where this blob is.
okay.
You,
And then we could put a
there's,
green
there's
blob.
no yes or no to
We
it.
could put a green blob where the ag uses are and say, these are productive ag lands and we are discouraging any development in these areas. And it's vague.
Okay, so this isn't
Around
determining,
property lines.
like, it's not like zoning where that's the only thing, you would have to get a variance if you were gonna get approved. It's, you're not saying that, this is just a recommendation?
Right? They can still come in and apply for it. It's just a growth. We're trying to promote growth patterns in the comprehensive plan.
Okay.
We're not going to say in our ordinances that you can't do that. or-
Got it.
I mean, it's
Yeah,
not
I'm just trying to understand your guys, the history
Zoning.
behind this, okay.
a future zoning map that says that this is what's going here. These are just images of where we're seeing growth patterns and where productive ag land is.
Got it. Okay.
We have a copy of that.
You do, but it's on the website too. I can just send this all to you. It's in the
Oh, these aren't her
demographic
blobs.
I have that,
down by Clearwater.
Okay.
when we had.
Right, and I'll go through and look. Some of them I didn't necessarily agree with, but that's why, this is just the concept I want to do. and we'll do our own words.
So, and this is just where we're encouraging more growth or
You know, then we could
discouraging.
have a blue blob along the scenic corridor, the Payette River National Scenic Corridor. I mean, it gives people images.
I think Cindy can wordsmith it to where it's non-committal.
Right.
Either
It's not
way.
a zone. It's not even an overlay district. It's
But it's gonna, I guess, when
land
you-
use trends. It's trends. It's
Yeah.
where we're trending.
But do you feel like, and I'm just being the skeptic here, do you feel like it's going to be treated as zones? It's like not, because nobody wants to commit to zoning, but when you're, it's going to, staff report's going to say, this is in the ag zone where development's discouraged,
Where we're trending. It's,
Okay.
this is our comprehensive plan. This is our vision for
Yeah.
the future.
So it's trends, it's not zones.
You know, it's a guide.
So that's what I was trying to do was to
But
get to
Kev,
that point.
on your ag, you can't go through and say nothing's compatible with ag.
Well,
What do you have as compatible
so
with
I
ag?
think there's some things that are missing on the matrix, some categories. One of them I think is like cities and city impact areas.
City impact areas are totally changing.
I know that, but I think that there's a compatibility concept to what's proposed and that comes across the commission.
I see your thing so I can look at it. I mean,
Yes.
would you give me a copy of that?
Well, I want to talk about
Well,
Right,
I'll
this
look
is
at it
just-
first, so I can think about it. How do I have a discussion with you if I haven't
How does
even
it
thought
work?
about it?
How does it work?
You just want to impose it on us when we should be thinking about it and then having a discussion.
I think we should have another, because I think we actually got some production under this morning. I think we should have maybe another work session, finish up. And then I really want to go through this matrix and the questions
Oh,
and
absolutely.
how we do these.
Absolutely.
Because I think if this is modified and we have a clear understanding of how this works and maybe make some modifications to how this matrix or the evaluation goes, I think it'll actually get to that point of fleshing out developments in areas where it makes sense. And
That's the code that implements the guide. I think we need this.
So this is the guide for this.
But I think we should see what you're proposing so we can actually think about it.
So I'll just quickly, because we're short on time here. When I looked, agricultural is the only indicator on here that talks about open space. And so should there be something else besides just ag space? I don't know what the categories are. I really think that cities are missing from this. And when I look at the ag section and I go across, there's a lot of these activities here that have positive scores when you propose a project close to the ag grant. And I think that those scores should be adjusted. There is one error on this matrix. Okay. That and that. They shouldn't be. And then I think how this works out, what we've, at least when I do these evaluations. you take any pictures?
Yep.
Notes?
I like that. Send it to me, please.
This is real rough.
You're not being paid for this.
I know. These first three questions always deal with compatibility based on this.
Let's see.
And these questions here, I've always viewed these as everything should start out as a 0, the ratings. And if there's something about the application that says, oh, it's,
That wasn't me.
it does an improvement.
You get a plus.
You get,
or
you're
a
earn 2
bonus.
extra points. If it doesn't meet the mitigation, and it should be a negative.
But that's, I mean, here you have single-family subdivision is a -2 next to an ag field. How does a house, a single-family subdivision, how is that a -2 to an ag use?
If it's I'm not talking about a single house,
If it says single-family subdivision,
right?
how is that a -2 to an ag use? Those are the kinds of things you guys are gonna have.
Right. But that's one component, that's one of the questions. Then there's other questions that look at other things in the vicinity and then the region, if it is, whatever it is.
You're going from a +1 to a -2.
Right, but the concern we're having, and we're trying to encourage or move the developments to spaces where there's already development, or near a city, or near, we're trying to protect a way of life in the agricultural lands in the valley. And I don't know how you do it. If you end up with positive scores, you're saying, absolutely, plop that subdivision down in the middle of your place. Because right now, that could happen.
I'm a yes kind of woman.
That-
She's agreeing with you and everybody else.
Okay, so.
I don't know, I need to look at that.
Anyway,
I haven't spent much time, like,
I
Do you
mean,
know how to turn that thing off?
it's, yeah. So I will spend some time.
Yeah, this is really important.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we have enough categories here.
I would agree with that.
Karen?
Yes, meeting is closed, so we
Meeting
can't
minute.
discuss this anymore after.
And I don't think
I need to
we
figure
use a
out.
lot of these points down here to offset compatibility. It's
I
more,
thought I knew.
because here we're saying, is there enough money coming in? Without, and if there's enough money, revenue coming in, you can build anything we want, wherever we want. I don't
Shouldn't
think-
infrastructure play a big role in this too?